let me just throw out an example of a modern day philosophical thinker. We'll keep your dad, Eric Weinstein, out of the picture for a
Okay.
sec. But he does happen to be an example of one. But Jordan Peterson is an example of another, somebody who thinks deeply about this world. His ideas are, by a certain percent of the population, sort of speaking of truth, are labeled as dangerous. Why do you think his ideas, or just ideas of these kinds of deep thinkers in general, are labeled as dangerous in our modern world? Is it similar to what you've been discussing, that in difficult times philosophers become dangerous, or is there something specific about these particular thinkers in our time?
Well, I think Jordan Peterson is very anti-establishment in a lot of his beliefs. He's an unconventional thinker, and I think we need, regardless of whatever Jordan's particular views and beliefs are, and if they bring about more danger than truth, or if they don't, it's very important to have fundamental thinkers who exist outside of a conventional framework. So do I think that he's dangerous? I think by existing outside of a system which is known, he is dangerous. And I think we have to, in some sense, we have to welcome danger in that capacity, because it will be our only way out of this. So regardless of whether his beliefs are right or wrong, I'm pretty adamant about the fact that we need to support thought which may rescue us.
And that thought can appear radical or dangerous at times. But ultimately, if you allow for it, this is kind of the difficult discussion of free speech and so on, is ultimately difficult ideas will pave the way for progress.
Yeah, and I'd like to slow you down there, because I think like one of the issues we were discussing previously was the fact that language often destroys our ability to think. When we're talking about whether his ideas are radical, I don't know if we mean radical in the traditional sense of having to do with the root of a problem, or in the more modern sense of being very extreme. And I think that's completely by design. I think fundamental thought, which semantically would once be considered radical thought, became very dangerous, and now it's become synonymous with extreme or dangerous thought, which means that anyone who considers themselves a radical thinker is semantically also a dangerous or extreme thinker.
These are not helpful labels, in a sense, that the moment you say radical or extremist thinker, then you're just, well, how do I put it? You're not helping the public discourse, the exchange of ideas.
But through no fault of our own, the concept of radical as having to do with a root is, it's an obvious concept for which there must be language, and a lot of the attack on thought has to do with attacking language which communicates conceptually. So like this is an example of how our world is becoming increasingly Orwellian. It's just language is being used to destroy our ability to think. I can't remember exactly what the numbers are, but I read some statistic about how greatly the average English vocabulary has decreased since 1960. It was like some incredible number. It really baffled me. It's like, how are people less able to think in a time when the world is supposed to be growing at a never before seen rate? It's like we can't sustain this growth if we destroy everyone's ability to think, because growth requires thinking, and we're ruining the tools for it. I watched your your podcast with Noam Chomsky, and I think one interesting thing which he discussed was how language is more used to develop thoughts within our own head than it is used to communicate those thoughts with others. If the language doesn't change, even if its usage changes, then when language is destroyed in communication, it also stymies our ability to think reasonably. And I'm very, very worried.